Welcome to Biz Jet TV. My name is Fabrizio Poli, and today we're going to be talking about something really interesting. We're going to be talking about the Trifan 600, which is a vertical takeoff and landing aircraft developed by the XTI Aircraft company in Denver, Colorado. We have a special guest on the show. We have CEO Bob Lobel. Bob started his career in the US Navy, flying and landing on aircraft carriers as a jet pilot. He then moved into the corporate world and for a number of years served as the chairman and CEO of Augusta Westland in North America, to then join XTI Aircraft and become their CEO. So he's in the driving seat there. He's going to talk to us about this incredible project that he's working on and how this aeroplane is going to change the industry and how things are going to be changing over the next 5 to 10 years as far as training and the developments that are happening on his project. It's a very, very interesting interview. I encourage you to sit through it and you really enjoy it. I'm sure you get a lot from it, and we'd love to also hear from you and see your comments below. Any questions you may have for me or for Bob, please post them below. If you haven't subscribed to Biz Jet TV, I encourage you to subscribe to this channel, and then also please share this video across social media. Let's get the word out there. The whole purpose of Biz Jet TV is to educate the world out there that the private jet and business aviation in general, it's not a luxury industry. Private jet is not a luxury item. It is a business tool, and this is for business people to save time and become more effective. So that's all from me on the intro. Let's get straight into the interview. Let's go over to Denver, Colorado now and meet with Bob Lobel and talk about the Trifan 600. Off we go. There we go. Bob, welcome to Biz Jet TV. Great to have you here today. You've got an interesting aircraft there behind you, the Trifan 600, XTI Trifan 600. Tell us about the unique features of this project that you and your team are working on and how it's really going to change the world of the way or how we fly.
Right. Well, the Trifan 600, as you know, is a vertical takeoff and landing airplane. This aircraft takes off and lands like a helicopter, but flies fast, far, and high like a jet. So it combines the great utility of a helicopter with the speed and convenience of a jet and the comfort. The aircraft will carry typically 4 people in the back. You can put a passenger in the right front seat also, although it has dual controls, and is single piloted and will be qualified for instrument flight rule flight. The range on the airplane will be, if you take off vertically, you can go I'll use miles, 750 miles. If you take off
Are those miles nautical or normal miles?
No, that would be statute miles.
Statute miles, okay.
670 nautical miles.
Okay.
Since we're talking to aviation people, I guess I can use nautical.
Yeah.
And then 1,200 nautical miles if you do a conventional takeoff, because in a conventional takeoff, of course, the wings are doing a lot of the work early on. And so it's weight limited in a vertical mode. But so you can get to 1,200 nautical miles doing a conventional takeoff. You can still probably do a vertical landing if you fly that far, because you'll be light enough on the other end. Yes. So this opens up a tremendous amount of market space. Originally, it's designed and still is designed to look at a typical business aircraft trip, which regardless of size or capability is typically about 800 kilometers or 500 miles. And so it's, this fits right in the heart of that. Normally a business aircraft's carrying maybe 3 or 4 people. So the sizing of it was to address specifically that market. But what we're discovering is that in addition to that, and we have a huge amount of take-up already, we've got 81 reservations in place now, representing $500 million of future revenue. We also are seeing a lot of interest from folks who aren't in the airplane business right now, or certainly don't have a business jet. So because of the economics of the aircraft, which I'll tell you about, we're seeing people who want to set up a service point to point. And there's a lot of, all around the world, you could go city pair to city pair or 2 locations and match up a need with this aircraft. And you'll see that you can fly people point to point very economically as compared to either a regional jet or even perhaps driving a car.
Yeah, because you're talking, what, $450 an hour all in?
Yes, $450 an hour recurring maintenance costs. That includes all the amortized maintenance of the aircraft plus fuel. So, it doesn't include such relatively fixed costs as a pilot or insurance or the actual amortization of the price of the aircraft.
Yeah.
But the aircraft is 6.5 million. And as I said, we've already had a good amount of reaction in the market all around the world. Every continent we have some orders from. And so the point-to-point service aspect of this is huge. And then emergency medical services. It has a very large cabin and a fairly wide door, wide enough to fit in a stretcher and 2 attendants. So we're seeing interest from that market. Now we're hearing interest from military markets. So, I mean, I really expect this to be a tremendous tool. It's going to be used all over the world for things that we probably can't even imagine right now.
So how is this going to disrupt the industry? Is it going to kill the helicopter?
Well, I hate to use the word kill in terms of a market, because there are some utility to helicopter that our aircraft can't do. If you need to hover, like sit in one place and just hover, which there are some missions for, whether you're lifting a heavy load or certain things like that, helicopters are going to be needed still. But if you're needing to take off from one point and land at another point and go far, go fast, why would you buy a helicopter when you can have a Trifan 600? In fact, I've talked with people who have both, right? So I talked with a business executive who has a helipad on top of her building, but she needs to fly to the airport so she can take, a 600-mile trip in her Pilatus PC-12.
Yeah.
Well, she specifically told me, I'm placing an order for your aircraft, and when I get it, I'm getting rid of my helicopter and my turboprop because I don't need them. And so there's, that's a small niche, I suppose, but that's a very good example of the utility of the airplane. We're also seeing interest from another sort of niche market, and that is super yacht owners. And this is almost like a little accessory for someone who has a super yacht. But now you've extended the range at which you can reach your yacht, and you can stay on board longer, and or let it go away further while you catch up to it, and it just provides lots of flexibility.
Yeah. So where are you now stage-wise with the project as far as, creating the prototype and moving towards FAA and EASA certification and that? What's the timeline right now?
Well, the timeline from here to certification is 4 years. We'll be certified in, say, this time in 2024. Okay. We're trying to be realistic about it. We are, in terms of where we are today, we've raised enough capital and spent enough capital to get through preliminary design. We have a pretty solid baseline for what we're going to do going forward, both in terms of the configuration and then also the actual individual elements of the schedule. We did build a 2/3 scale unmanned proof of concept or prototype. It was battery powered only. It didn't have the gas engine, so the hybrid system. This is mainly to prove out some of the aerodynamics and mainly also to look at the efficiency of the ducted fans. We discovered that the proprietary design that we're using on the fans gives us a tremendous amount of efficiency, much higher than we even expected. So we've toyed with that. We've had no problems with it. It's worked well, but we really need to move into the full-scale effort, which is why we're currently raising a $25 million private placement which will launch us into that whole effort, get us a full-scale flying airplane within the next 20 months, and enter into a certification program with FAA.
So this is a hybrid electric and kerosene jet alpha one. Okay. What are the chances of making it completely electric, or does that really depend on the development of batteries in the next few years?
You're going to need a couple of step changes in energy density or battery power to ever consider getting significant range out of an aircraft. And like, for example, in ours, but let me explain the hybrid electric system. So in a hybrid electric system, you have a gas engine, like a turbo shaft engine. It's mated up with one or more generators. We're looking at a couple of generators to provide some redundancy. Then they provide electric power to electric motors in the hub of the fan. And so instead of a mechanical interface and a mechanical system there, you just have an electric motor spinning. Much lighter, smaller, and more efficient than a mechanical system. Then in the takeoff mode, and this is why it's called hybrid, you have batteries which then supplement that power, because the engine to the generator isn't enough power to lift it up vertically. And the reason we reserve that power, keep it smaller, is that because now when you're in cruise and the batteries are off, you're burning a lot less fuel, but you've got plenty of power to go forward on the wing. So in the takeoff mode, the batteries supplement the power, giving plenty of power to the fans. You lift up, transition, you go into cruise mode, the batteries turn off, and then they get recharged, and they're only depleted 10 to 15% anyway.
Yeah.
And then when you go to land, if you need the batteries, they'll kick in again and you land. So what the point is, you're not carrying all that extra weight and fuel burn penalty through most of the flight when you don't need it. And that gives us a higher efficiency. So the options, like you were saying, could we put more battery in? If you put a lot more battery in, you might get a little bit more range, but the problem with batteries is you're always carrying that fuel around. Yeah. So if if you burn fuel, it's going away, and your airplane's becoming more efficient and lighter.
Yeah.
When you carry bags around, they're always there as a weight penalty.
Yeah, true. What about the avionics? What type of avionics are you looking at putting into? And is it going to be fly by wire?
Yeah. So of course the flight control system is complete auto flight, fly by wire. It's almost it doesn't take the pilot out of the loop, but just about there with a lot of aircraft today. The pilot's an operator, and the flight control system is doing all the work. So that's pretty much a no-brainer. Avionics wise, I don't want to disclose yet where we are with a couple of negotiations, but we'll have a standardized modern glass cockpit like you see in any modern airplane today.
Yeah. What about the Trifan 600 being piloted by AI? Is that a thing you're thinking about for the future? Boeing are doing experiments now where they're having 737 flying around piloted by a robot. Is that something you're looking at as well?
We're not digging into that right now, but it's inherently there with the technology that you infuse these airplanes with, because someone purchases this airplane to fly themselves or their family or their colleagues around. They're probably not comfortable unless there's a pilot up front. And so that's how we're designing the airplane. But the technology that's embedded in the airplane would allow for what you just described.
So question now, for a pilot to fly this machine, do they have to be a helicopter pilot or an airplane pilot?
It can be either one. There's a category called powered lift, which has been recognized by the authorities. There's a big company, Leonardo, developing the tilt rotor aircraft, which is much more expensive, although probably about the same in terms of utility. And so they've been working with the FAA for a number of years to create that. It's both from the standpoint of the pilot rules and also just the aircraft certification itself. It combines a couple of different parts of the FAA regulations. But so any pilot just comes into our system, gets trained, and then goes away with a ticket that certifies them to fly the airplane.
So how long do you envision the type rating being for a pilot? How long is it going to take to transition on this area? Is it 2-3 weeks?
Yeah, 3 weeks, maybe 4 at the most.
Okay, so I imagine you're planning on building simulators as well for this.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, tell us about your team, because obviously pulling off something like this, you can't do it without a team. Tell us a bit about the people on your team and why this team is so unique.
Sure.
And is helping you make this whole project a success.
I mean, although I have quite a bit of experience, it's humbling to be around the team that I have. So for myself, of course, I flew jets in the Navy, and then I got involved in program management, engineering, and flight tests at the end of my career for many years. Then went to work for Leonardo, who I just mentioned. Did a number of programs with them, and then recently, within the last few years, was recruited to come help get XTI moving. But like behind me is amazing. I've got a gentleman named Charlie Johnson who had every significant job at Cessna Aircraft, including being the president of the company. And we have a chief technical advisor / officer, Dr. James Wong, who created the first electric airplane of any size back in 2012 and flew it. And he's a world-known authority on electric airplanes and vertical flight. And then beyond that, I've got a whole team of salespeople and advisors who've been in aerospace their whole life and really are like recognized, when you say their name. So I like to use that as a contrast to some of the other startups in this space. Now they're not competing with us because they're not doing a long range vehicle, but they are doing something that's in VTOL, and you don't see that depth of experience. It seems, it doesn't mean it won't be successful with a lot of hard work and some mistakes made along the way, like we all do. But.
Yeah, but your project, I mean, your airplane is going for the 500-mile range mission. A lot of the other projects out there are doing inside 100 miles. So it's more like the urban air mobility, connecting you from one side of the city to the other. You're more connecting one city to another. So, someone will probably have the smaller electrical vertical takeoff and landing to go around the city in. And then there's your one that's used to go from city to city.
Right.
What about other future versions of this? Are you looking as a company to develop this first XTI Trifan 600 and then go on to the Trifan 700 or 900 or 1000? I mean, is that something you've been thinking about?
In both directions, actually, because there's demand for it. So we've been asked about a smaller version, which in effect we've already made with our smaller scale prototype. That actually that airplane could seat 2 people. It could seat 4, but I think in terms of weight, that could seat 2. It could be a light surveillance aircraft for the military. It could be an autonomous cargo aircraft. But I like even more talking about the larger ones because there sure is demand there. We talked to some, airlines CEOs around the world, and they're telling us, well, if you could carry 15 people, I'd buy 100 of them from you right now. So there is demand there. We're not going to jump into that. We want to make sure we get this one, proven and certified, and
of course,
and perhaps along the way we'll start on that second one. But if you could take this airplane and with a similar economics and put 15 people in it and go point to point, I mean, you're just going to open up a whole, hundreds and hundreds of markets. So whereas today, you got to go the hub and spoke system to get from, say, one small city to another.
So how is this going to change the design of airports? Because, even Elon Musk is talking electrical vertical takeoff and landing hypersonic aircraft. I mean, and if anybody can pull it off, it's probably him. There are airports around. Here in the UK, they're talking about building a 3rd runway down at Heathrow Airport. I think that's been scrapped, but the Vancouver Airport's looking at building a 3rd runway. And obviously building these long 4,000 meter runways cost a lot of money. It takes 10 to 15 years to do this kind of thing. To which I always say, into 15 years time, we won't be flying the way we do now. So how do you think this whole vertical takeoff and landing is going to change the way airports are designed?
Well, as you know, the larger aircraft are kind of fading away. The 380 experiment didn't turn out the way it was expected, so there isn't demand, and demand is what drives everything. So I think that the big, huge runway, sort of airports are not necessarily going to be needed in the future. But smaller airport, I think what the biggest impact you'll see right away is that smaller airports, if you do go airport to airport, smaller airports will need more infrastructure development around them. So to screen passengers and to service passengers, to provide food and transportation and all those sorts of things. So that's going to be kind of a boon underneath the whole typical airport infrastructure concerns. Beyond that, I don't know. It's hard to imagine the impact until you start seeing it out there in the market.
Yeah, but your aircraft will pretty much be able to take off from someone's front door or top of their house or top of their building. Are you looking more at that kind of development for your aircraft? So privately, somebody that's a pilot / business owner, instead of buying themselves a King Air or a Citation CJ1, they'd buy one of your aircraft. They keep it parked at their house, maybe on the roof or in a little hangar. And when they need to go somewhere, they just press a button, the roof opens, and off they go.
Exactly right. Yeah, we've had that. We have that vision. We actually do have some plans sketched out, more than sketched out, I'd say. We've even gotten into looking at some infrastructure projects by doing some design work on buildings. But I don't want to go too far down that road. the key is, as you point out, there is going to be some level of infrastructure development that's needed, and it's very complementary with what we're doing. So helipads, for example, there is plenty of them out there, but they may not be in the right places. So helipad development, real estate development to service this type of aircraft is going to be very important. We've begun some talks with some real estate development companies to see if they want to partner up in some fashion.
Yeah, I imagine this will be very popular down in places like Africa, where they don't have infrastructure.
Africa,
Yeah.
India, there are key places like that, especially Africa, where the distances are vast too,
Yes.
right? So,
Yeah.
it takes you all day to drive 200 miles because just the road infrastructure isn't that great. And now you can just do it in 15 minutes or so. So yeah, and that's a key market.
Yeah, and of course, it's a lot cheaper to operate the XTI 600 than it is to operate a helicopter, which is very expensive. I was talking to somebody a few weeks ago, and they were telling me they have this mine, and they have to move this gold and sometimes cash from one location to the other. And there's this lake in the middle. It's not a big lake, and they said that moving it by over land is dangerous because the pirates and the criminals and whatever they punch on you and jump on you and steal stuff. So they have to transport via helicopter, but it costs $10,000 every flight.
Oh
so they were looking at if they could do it by drone. It may be cheaper. But there again, with something like yours, you can just land at the mine, pick up the 200 kilos of gold or whatever it is, and then fly it straight to a destination, 500 miles down the road.
Right, to its final destination instead of to a fuel stop or some other thing to do with a helicopter. That's true, and you get there a lot faster, of course.
Yeah. So what kind of infrastructure are you putting in place for maintenance and things like that? Have you thought of that already? And
yeah, we've got plans for that, but we haven't started any kind of execution on that at all. We're still somewhat early stage with respect to all that support work. But we've definitely got the people on board who know how to make that happen.
Yeah. And factory-wise, where are you going to build these, and how many do you think you'll be building a year?
Well, we're headquartered in Denver, Colorado right now.
Yeah.
For the time being, our plans are to remain in that area. There are a lot of enticements that might bring us to other locations within the United States. Ultimately, we're gonna ramp up to, at least at a single site, 85 to 90 aircraft per year.
Okay. 85 to 90. Okay, and then you'll see how things progress, and then you may open a bigger factory somewhere else.
Yeah, I think there's going to be pull for us to, or pull or push, however you want to describe it, to go to an international location, perhaps somewhere in Asia, and have local assembly at least there, so that we can more readily service that market.
Yeah, Vietnam would be a good place to go.
Yeah, it's a good one, right?
Because they're big into technology. They've got a very young population, and the government's very pro-technology, so they're encouraging all the young people to become engineers and things like that. So you probably would find not only a friendly environment from the government standpoint, but also being able to recruit young people that have got the talent and the ability and the qualifications to work with your company. That certainly would be one I would look at. A lot of people don't know much about Vietnam, that they are becoming a technology hub for Asia. Everybody thinks Asia, they think Japan or South Korea or China, but there are other places too.
Yeah, it really is opening up there.
Yeah. Okay, good. Bob, thank you very much. Very interesting, and I wish you all the best with the project. I'm a great believer in what you guys are doing, and I think there's going to be a lot of success here. And it really is going to change the way we fly. I mean, once we see more and more of these machines taking off and landing vertically instead of using long 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 meter runways, and being able to take off from your home and fly to wherever you have your meeting directly, and saving all that time on the road, it's going to make life a lot different, and a lot more. Your time is going to be used more effectively. I always say, people never buy a business jet because they're buying a plane, they're buying time. Well, what you're actually going to be doing is giving them even more time, which is great. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Fabrizio. I couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for your time.
Okay. A great interview there with Bob Lobel from XTI Aircraft. If you want to know more, or if you've got any questions, you can post in the comments below, and let's get the conversation going, see what you think about this aircraft and how it's going to revolutionize air travel. And also, if you want to contact me and schedule yourself in for a call, a one-to-one call, where I can hone in on your business needs and see what would be the best aircraft to fit your needs and help you in the acquisition process. So ping me an email below and we'll get that call set up. If you haven't already subscribed to Biz Jet TV, encourage you to subscribe. Comment below, as I said, give us a thumbs up, and also share this video across social media. Let's share it and get the word out there that Business Jet is a business tool. Also encourage you to have a look at these videos here on the future of aviation. Lots of other videos on aircraft of the future I'm sure you'll be interested in, and also check this other video out about the Global 7500 by Bombardier, which is an interesting one. And that's all from Fabrizio Poli on Biz Jet TV, and I'll see you on the next one.